Hello there everybody, Sam Strains here, welcome back to the railway. Today I'm going to be reviewing something that I never have and never expected to review. It's a water tower. More specifically then, it is this, the brand new Dapol Great Western Water Tower, which is motorised and complete with sound effects. I bought this from Rails of Sheffield for £42.50, which actually, to say that this is a fully assembled, fully decorated water tower with all of the tech on board to make it move and to make it play sounds, that is really reasonable, I thought. And if you find the movement and the sound effects to be all a little bit frivolous, you can actually save around half the price on this thing. £21 is the price without any of the extra features. So very, very reasonable, I would say. At the moment, I have no idea what this is going to be like. It is brand new, it's only just come out. And if you want to check them out as well, I do have an affiliate link down in the description, or I'm going to try and get one at the short notice. How it works, I've no idea yet. I'm hoping there's some good instructions on the inside. But let's investigate, let's find out, and hope you enjoy it. Okay, let's do it. So when I saw that Dapol were making these, I just couldn't resist popping in a pre-order. I don't have a proper water tower on my layout. And of course, for the price, it seems very reasonable given that it's got all of the sort of animation and the sound. And of course, anything that moves in my book is really, really cool. So that's fantastic. As you can see through the front, it looks pretty good as well. It's very large. If you imagine the size of a 00 scale person, this is at least 4 to 5 times the height of one. A very, very big thing in real life. So quite an impressive piece of scenery, really. Okay, let me show you the back. So the version I went for, it's a water tower in the chocolate and cream, just like a coach, with the conical top, and it is indeed motorised. And yes, they do versions that don't have a conical top. I think they've got a flat top, might be something slightly different. And you can see some of the specs here. The interesting part to me was that it operates from 9 to 18 volt AC or DC, so there must be some sort of rectification inside there. It also says simple wiring, which sounds pretty good. So I will have to crank it up and give it a try at some point. For now though, let's get this out and figure out what this is like. It's going to be really interesting, this, a complete first for me. Okay, so I'm guessing it opens at the bottom. Yep, it does, and hopefully this tray will slide out. There we go. Alright, so it's in a cool little tray. I do have a user's guide here, so I will have to look over this properly before I actually give this a try. It does say that the pack includes a push button, which is fantastic. It says there's no oil required or anything like that, and in fact it might invalidate the warranty. And it also says you can use basically any power supply you like, including a 9-volt battery. Whether that will actually work or not, I'm not sure, because obviously as soon as the battery starts to drain, the voltage is going to drop below 9 volts, and the minimum recommended voltage is apparently 9 volts. So how that will work, I'm not too sure. But let's get this tray apart and have a look at this water tower then. I do notice it's got like a bit of a thread on the bottom there, presumably to allow you to fix the thing to a baseboard. I'm hoping that will be removable because obviously I don't have a baseboard, and it would be nice to put this on my layout if I decide to afterwards. So let's see if I can pop this front off. I'm guessing this is how it's done. I have to say, this could have been a very complicated device, couldn't it? It could have involved all sorts of different wiring and complicated processes. But no, you literally just connect it up to a power supply and the job's a good one, apparently. So that's really reassuring. Okay, well, I'll just pull this out. I don't know if the wires are connected already. Yeah, they appear to be. Okay, that's the button, is it? Okay. With a plug on it, that's good. So there's no soldering required, apparently. There's just a plug on the wire. Anyway, there it is, and this thing looks really, really cool, actually. There's a lot of detail on it. I can see separately fitted chains, which are all a bit tangled at the moment, but I will untangle those at some point. Really quite nicely decorated as well, and somewhere inside there is a motor and a sound system as well, which is just astonishing, isn't it? Wow, this is really, really cool. I can't wait to give it a try. So I'm going to show you some of the details up close. First of all, though, here's some comprehensive history of the Great Western Water Towers. Well, it's just a water tower, isn't it? So there it is then, the Great Western Water Tower, up close and personal for you, and this is a really well detailed little piece of scenery, actually. It comes together really, really nicely. So if you were wondering, the main material is just plastic. So the system, the base, most of it is just made of plastic. which might give you some cause for concern as to how durable this is going to be, particularly if you catch it by accident. But actually some of the finer parts, I mean this ladder by the way, and what look like filler pipes I would guess to fill up the system full of water, those are made of metal, so they shouldn't be too easy to damage, which is really, really good. The decoration is fantastic as well, it's really nice and clean. In fact, the different coloured parts are all separate pieces, which means that there's no chance of any paint bleed or anything like that. It does mean though that some of the parts have sort of seam lines on them. I mean the main sort of pillar that holds up the cistern there's quite a big gap in that, which obviously isn't that convincing. And the cistern itself has some gaps in it as well. Obviously with a bit of weathering, perhaps a little bit of touching up, you could hide those, but out of the box those are slightly noticeable. But the level of detail is really, really beautiful on the whole. So you've got these chains, these are separately fitted metal actual chains, which will obviously move around as you're using the water tower, as they would in real life, which is really nice. And you've got these little handrails as well up at the top near the, well, there's a little door in the top actually, I only just noticed that, where I assume you could go up and inspect and remove pigeons and that sort of thing if you wanted to. The actual moving filler pipe itself is quite nicely moulded as well, very nice and clean looking. And then you've got this sort of rubberised hose fitted to that, which obviously can be moved around and positioned over a locomotive or something like that. And then you've got this little drain moulded into the base. Look, I'm just loving looking at this and all the little details and figuring out how it would work. Yeah, a little drain at the bottom also with a chain here. I wonder what that chain would be for. Again, really nice to have real chains. That looks really, really good. And of course there's all these rivets on the side of the cistern as well, which help just to make it look quite nice and realistic. Yeah, it does the job, doesn't it? It looks really, really good. The wires are obviously a little bit of a mess. I'm going to have a job to hide those. I think for someone like me it would have been better if the pairs of wires had been adhered together, as you sometimes can get them, like 2-core or whatever. But no, these are single core, as you can tell, which does mean that they fray all over the place. But that's okay, obviously, if you're going to be mounting this onto a baseboard, there's no problem with that whatsoever. Yeah, I really like this. This looks fantastic, but obviously the level of detail is one thing. Let's talk about the actual performance. Will it work? What does it sound like? What's it going to say? I've heard that these are quite humorous voices, but I've been very careful not to overhear or listen to any of them up until now on YouTube or however else. Yeah, I wanted to hear them for the first time on camera. So let's do that. Let's set it up and see what it's all, or listen, I guess, and see what it's all about. Okay, so there it is, ready to go. I've just wired it up straight to my bench power supply really, because it's so flexible. AC, DC, 8 to, what was it now? Forget what the top of the voltage range was. You can basically just plug it into anything and it will work just fine. And actually looking inside, there's quite a lot of engineering gone into this. You can tell just how much thought they've put into this as well, just to make sure that it works for everybody and with as little effort as possible. So let's give this a try then. I have wired up the switch. It's really quite a nice button actually. And also obviously the fact that it's activated just on the closing of a switch means that you can wire it into any sort of system. You can trigger it however you like. You could probably have some sort of Arduino power it. Maybe you could have sensors that detect when a loco comes up. I mean, yeah, the possibilities are endless. First try though, I've set it to about 10-11 volts on my DC power supply, so that should be fine. Let's give it some juice, see what happens. I feel the chain maybe not quite in the right position there. There we are. Hey, this is awesome.
Right, we're ready to go.
Help, there's a pirate inside my water tank. That was brilliant. So, I mean, the movement wasn't silky smooth. It does look like it needs some oil, which is probably why they've put on the instructions, don't oil it. Oh, that was cool. Right, let's try another then. So we've got all this, it's not just the voice either. I expected it might just be the voice, but you've actually got sort of the sound of machinery. You can hear the water, and then this very loud booming voice. Right, let's try that again.
Ready, mate? She's home.
Brilliant. I don't know what that reminds. It reminds me of like an old video game or something, doesn't it? You know, these dodgy voice actors talking. Oh, that was very entertaining though. Come on, let's have one more, shall we?
Grab that token, then we're off.
Grab that token, then we're off. I think that was. It sounded like a different voice that time. Well, do you know what? This is exactly what a model railway accessory should be. A lot of fun, everyone's going to enjoy it. You don't need a master's in engineering or whatever to get the thing hooked up. Literally just plugged it into my power supply, pushed the button, and the thing works. It moves, it makes noise, it's just everything a model railway accessory should be. I love it. I think that is so cool. In fact, it's so good that I'm going to give an unnecessary amount of time to the demonstration of this. Let's do one more. Don't know how many sounds this has got on board. The first part sounds the same every time.
Ready, Mike? She's home.
Oh, okay. So it seems to be at random as well. I don't think it's cycling through. That wasn't the first one I heard, was it? Okay, let's try it with a loco there then. I've set up my 14XX. It does look as though the hose is going to be a bit long. I'm not sure really whether I want it banging into the loco, because obviously then it might stress out the motor or whatever's running this thing. So we'll see how it goes. I've positioned the loco so that it's not too close. Yeah, let's give it a try. Alright, so you can kind of imagine that. I think if you got the loco positioned just right, it would be fairly accurate with that.
Mike, she's home.
Although, obviously, if you wanted to position the hose right above the water tank, I mean, in real life, this thing would be super flexible, wouldn't it? So that you could just shove it into the tank. On the model, you can't really do that. So yeah, practically speaking, it might be a little bit difficult. But yeah, with a little bit of imagination, I think it works very, very well. That's brilliant. So I did wonder whether it would be pointless to try and do a rating for this, but I thought, you know, I always do, so why not? What do I know about water towers? Well, not an awful lot, it's just a bit of fun. I'll give them the detail a 4-star. Yeah, I thought it was very, very nicely detailed. Lots of riveted detail, loads of separately fitted parts, handrails, chains, ladders, you name it really. Some of these seams were a little bit obvious on parts of the model, but it's not a big deal, is it? So definitely a good strong 4-star there. Performance is really, really good. I love the sound. It actually sounds pretty good to say how tiny the sort of speaker must be inside there. The movement isn't particularly silky smooth, it's not that convincing, but the fact that it works at all is pretty amazing. The quality is pretty good as well. The more fragile parts are made of metal, which should help them withstand installation. Of course, once the thing is in situ, provided you're not catching it by accident, there's no chance of it getting damaged really. But despite some of the metal construction, you do have to be pretty careful with the thing because it is a little bit on the fragile side. But hey, when you're dealing with little tiny scale models with tiny details on them, you should expect a degree of fragility, so that's okay. Now, value for money, the RRP for this is £50, and I bought mine from Rails of Sheffield for £42.50. I think given all the tech inside there and given how compatible it is with all your different power supplies and the fact that it's super detailed and the fact that you get a button with it and the fact that it makes noises and of course the fact that it moves as well is pretty amazing. So I don't think £42.50 is bad at all for this. And then of course, as I said earlier on, if you don't want the motor and you don't want the noise, you can get this for half price without any of that stuff inside, only £21. So I think for what you get here, the value is fantastic. Of course, it's not just a piece of scenery, it's an animation, it's almost a toy. It's such an interesting thing to look at. You know, people are going to come round to your house, maybe kids, maybe even adults too, of course. You can play this for them and it's going to be an awful lot of fun. Yeah, I think for what you get, the value for money is fantastic. Overall then, that is an 8.61 out of 10. I really love this thing. Alright, so now I'm going to have a quick go at actually setting this water tower into my layout. Now as you can see, I'm not on a baseboard. Yes, slap on the wrist, that is my fault. But it does mean that the button isn't going to be that suitable. I don't really want a button poking out from underneath my grass mats or whatever. So I've picked up this little device. I've got quite a few of these. These are called reed switches. They work just like every other switch that you've seen, except rather than pushing a button or flicking a switch, you bring a magnet close and that closes the switch. And as you can see, I've fitted one of those inside the base of the water tower, which means that now instead of pushing a button, I just bring a magnet close to the base of the water tower and it will activate. So I fitted it as best as I could onto my layout next to one of these stations, and I think it looks pretty nice there. I then covered up some of the wires just with some foliage, and of course I don't have any wires now for a switch because it's built into the base of the water tower. And with that, I'm going to give this a try. I've made myself, let me show you what I've made, a little wand with a magnet stuck on the end. I've also found that if you push the button for longer, you get a different mode of events, you get a different sequence play. So I'm going to demonstrate that to you now. I've got the 14XX ready and waiting, and I'm going to bring the magnet close to the base. Something about a chain.
That will see us over the top.
I just love the voice. It's such funny voices. Let's try that one more time then. Obviously you could extend this idea by putting the reed switch in the side of the base facing outwards, and then you could fit magnets into the lower body of the locos so that the water tower would trigger as the loco pulls up. I've not done that in this case because obviously this is on the main line and I don't want it going off every single time a loco goes past. But let's say you had a siding dedicated to the water tower, you could definitely do that and that would be really great fun. Let's try it again then. So as you can see, the reed switch works a treat, no button required, and it's almost like magic. Just wave a magnet near the thing and it works automatically. So there we go, the Dapol Great Western Water Tower. What a lot of fun that is going to be. Yeah, I'll just get it going in the odd video and I think that will be a lot of fun. So thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. What a nice thing to look at for a change. And I'll see you on the next one. Alright, cheers everybody.